Hi guys, Grand J here and welcome to another one of our videos. With a couple of weeks past, we've seen a whole bunch of new Opus 5 spoilers. So today's video, we're going to go into part 3 and we're going to be talking about some of the new cards that have been recently released. Here's a list of cards we'll be talking about today in today's video. If you want to have a look at some of the earlier cards from the set, do check out part 1 and part 2 where we talk about some of the earlier spoilers. So without any further ado, let's check out the cards. So, first card to talk about is Vermilion Bird Lassie Saytuna. It is a 4-cost backup EX burst. When Vermilion Bird Lassie Saytuna enters the field, you may search for one category type 0 summon and add it to your hand. It's got an S ability, Verboten Eidolon, so it's S, 2 fire dull, put 5 backups into a break zone, break all forwards an opponent controls. So this card seems like really fun, but I do question its sort of like position in the game, right? So at 4-cost EX burst, search for a card. It's on curve, so it's like it's cost effective, and it is EX burst as well, so that's pretty good. But unfortunately, the amount of cards that it can search for is actually very niche, and those summons are actually very niche as well. So it searches for a type 0 summon, and there's only 3 at the moment, and they all synergize with the Class 0 cadet. So unfortunately, that's the big issue. So you have Ifrit, which isn't very good unless you have Ace cadets. It gets Odin, which isn't particularly good unless you have 0 cadets, and Diablos, which can be alright without 0 cadets. But yeah, so you only really have 3 targets that you can search for with this card. So this card's effect is actually really niche. So in that regard, I almost feel that 4 costs might be a little bit overpriced for this card, considering the very few amount of cards that it does search for. I honestly think that if this was a 3-cost backup, this card actually would have been like fairly well costed. But at 4, it's just a little bit too expensive for the fact that it just has too niche an effect. The fact that it is a Lassie and not a 0 cadet is also pretty hindering as well, because obviously you're going to play this card pretty much only in a Class 0 cadet deck, and the fact that it isn't a cadet and it's a Lassie means that it doesn't help trigger any of your like your cadet type synergy effects. That being said, it is a fire backup, and like the cadets, they do have an issue in that they don't really have too many backups of other colors. They have 3 backups that are wind, they have 1 backup that's lightning, and 1 backup that's fire. So this does give a potentially two color cadets deck an extra way to get a fire backup in. That's also got like pretty good synergy. That's also got pretty good synergy that allows you to search for summons. So it's not too bad. I could potentially see this being played in a sort of wind-fire cadets deck. Yeah, getting Ifrit or getting Diablos are both pretty solid if you're playing cadets. Its S ability. So first of all, we have, this does seem to be the only copy of this card that we've seen. So this card is going to only really have its own sort of card as an S ability. So for 2 fire dull, put 5 backups in the break zone, break all forwards and opponent controls. This is a very risky play. So yeah, you're effectively sacrificing your entire backup line. So do note that you cannot put your opponent's backups into the break zone for this ability. You can only put your own, right? So this S ability can only be used when you have 5 backups on your side of the field, and I think that's the biggest issue of this ability, is that it's a part of the cost as well. So you have to put all your 5 backups in the break zone, and then just hope it all goes well to break all your opponent's forwards. And usually that doesn't seem like a particularly good payoff, considering fire does have very good removal, and considering that you would be putting this into a fire-based deck. And Fire Aura has a lot of removal, so I don't really foresee too many situations where you'd be really pressed to to destroy your opponent's forwards. And yeah, and like you'd really want to be aiming for like 3 or more of your opponent's forwards with this ability. So I don't think that this ability is something that you want to activate too often. The fact that you have to sacrifice 5 backups. If the card says sacrifice all your backups, then potentially I could see this card seeing some sort of play or using this S ability more often. But as it is right now, it's a very cost intensive effect, and like the value that it isn't like very good in most cases. Of course, you can use it as a win condition in that if you already have forwards on the field, you can use it to clear up all your opponent's forwards and just send them in. But then you're always like at the risk of potentially getting EX bursted or your opponent having summons to respond to you. And if your opponent can really stop your attack for that turn and you're not winning that turn, then generally you're probably going to lose because you just lost all your backups and you lost 5 backups. So that's a lot to lose. And considering in a cadets deck, there's so much synergy with having more cadets on the field, and you want to be using your backups to like obviously pay for effects. This is going to be a very, very difficult card to use. I don't really foresee it seeing much play because of that. Next, we have Volker. Volker is a 4-cost forward at 8,000 power. When Volker or a category 11 forward enters the field, choose one forward. It cannot block this turn. It's got an S ability, so just S, choose one blocking forward, break it. So this just fits really well into like the fire sort of archetype, and that fire wants to be able to aggressively attack more often, and it want to make it so that your opponent doesn't want to block you or isn't able to block you. And so Volker is pretty solid in this regard. Volker I sort of foresee to be like very similar to Genesis in the sense that he does have an immediate effect when he comes into play. So when he comes into play, choose one of your opponent's forwards and it can't block, so it allows you to push through aggressively with your other forwards. And then like on following turns, if you play more forwards that happen to be category 11, then it can also like apply the same pressure again and again. So this card seems like a super good like pressure tool, but does it compare against Sabin? I'm not too sure about it. So Sabin makes it so your forwards can't be broken, whereas Volker makes it that your opponent's forwards can't block. So they do have their own like pros and cons and their own niches. Obviously it depends on like how much synergy we see with the rest of like category 11. But yeah, by itself, it's actually pretty solid. And I'm not sure how many more copies of Volker we might see in the game. If we do see another one, then this S ability becomes really, really good. Simply choosing a blocking forward, break it. This is a fantastic ability to just sort of threaten. And the fact that it's just an S ability and you don't have to play any sort of elemental cost means that you can just put Volker down. And then whenever you're attacking, you can always threaten to Vorpal Blade your opponent's blocker. So it is a really, really scary card for your opponent to try to deal against. So, and I think that that psychological aspect of this card is actually going to be really, really, really good. But yeah, obviously it depends on like how many copies of him are available and what like what other support we see for category 11. But on paper, this card seems very good so far. Next, we have Vayne. So this was a card that was revealed recently online on Kageyama's Twitter. It is a 3-cost forward, EX burst 6,000 power forward. When Vayne enters the field, you may search for a card named Laza and add it to your hand. So Laza previously was an Opus 2 forward that we saw that was 5,000 power 2 cost, and it gave a Minwoo type ability. And it could also buff forwards on defense as well. So Vayne here we have, so this is the second version of Vayne that we have. And effectively, you're really getting a 1 CP 6,000 power forward, which is pretty solid. And you are searching for Laza. So previously, Laza was a water forward. I'm not too sure what Laza is going to be in the new set, but let's assume that he is water again. That means you are locked into playing like 2 colors in order to sort of really get the value out of this card. Not only that, it kind of locks you out of playing your other Vayne, your 4-cost Vayne, which like depending on the meta is actually very good or like average. But yeah, like it depends on how good the new Laza is. If the new Laza is actually very, very good, or it's got a very strong control ability, or it's like it's synergized very well with the ice water package, then potentially we can see this card and potentially Laza like see more play. But right now, this is one of those cards that really depends on the value of the targets that it's searching for. If the targets are good, then this card will see play. If not, then this card probably won't. Next, we have Chocobo. It is a 3-cost forward at 7,000 power. If Chocobo phones the party, Chocobo does not receive any damage. So this is a weird situation because Chocobo typically it protects its rider, but in this situation, this Chocobo is a complete coward. It protects itself. The rider or the party members that form with party with him don't have any sort of protection. So this card's interesting in that so you can party attack with it, and this Chocobo is safe. That being said, though, from my experience, typically you want your Chocobos to be the expendable ones, or the ones that are like in dealing with combat, because generally you want to be protecting other forwards that you're attacking with your Chocobo. And Chocobos have the ability to be supported by Fat Chocobo. So at the very least, this Chocobo can just like be a 3-cost 9,000 power forward, in which case like him forming party doesn't really matter because you can always just threaten to Fat Chocobo him. Your opponent's generally not going to like want to, like your opponent's generally going to find it very difficult to deal with this Chocobo. But yeah, it's another free cost Chocobo, and this one's on curve at 7,000 power forward. But I don't really foresee this Chocobo seeing much play compared to the special Chocobo, which is it's the same stat line, but it gives another forward. Haste. So yeah, the fact that this card doesn't have haste does reduce some of the speediness of this card, and Chocobos do seem to be like quite an aggressive deck. So having haste is pretty important, and this card doesn't really sort of it doesn't feel like it has a place in Chocobo decks because it protects itself, and generally Chocobos don't need that much protection. So yeah, it's a little bit weird. I don't really foresee this card seeing super amount of play. He'd probably be added in just like as an extra like free for 7,000 power Chocobo. But I think in a lot of other cases you would much rather have like the other Chocobos in play over this card. Next we have Diabolos, and this is another one of those Mobius summons, and it has extremely cool looking artwork. It is a 5-cost summon. Select up to 2 of the 4 following actions. Choose one forward of cost 5 or more, break it. Choose one forward of cost 4 or less until the end of turn its power becomes 1,000. Activate all forwards you control. Activate all backups you control. So this card has a lot of options, and it's very reminiscent to like a lot of Magic the Gathering style cards. This card does cost 5, so it is actually a very pricey card to play. But the fact that you do get quite a lot of flexibility and like quite a couple of like very potent abilities is actually very, very good. So first of all, you can destroy a forward of cost 5 or more. So this is a very relevant characteristic for Wind. They really have this ability to just punish forwards that are cost 5 or more. In that regard, like there's been a lot of times where Wind decks have tried to play cards like Alexander, and like not too often they're going to have their effects like sort of trigger off. And most of those are EX bursts as well. So this first ability is kind of niche. It's not going to happen too often, but it's always kind of like relevant, and I think that's the relevance of this card, is that you've always got these options reserved and available to you, and you just choose which one you need at the time, right? So you'll be using the first ability whenever you can, but there won't be too many times where you will use it. The second ability, choose on 4 to 4 or less until the end turn its power becomes 1,000. This seems to be like the effect that you'll be using most often, especially considering that Wind has a lot of ping effects. Yeah, this is the effect that you're going to use most often. It's select up to like one of the 3 other options and choose a forward and make it 1,000 power. So this one's the one that you're going to be using like 90% of the time, because it just effectively like straight out kills a guy. And then activating all your forwards. It is actually like one of the most expensive ways to activate your forwards, considering that Wind does have cards like Sylph and does have cards like Ashura. So yeah, but that is always available to you. And to activate all backups you control, it does allow you to sort of hedge back some of the costs of playing the Diabolos. So this card actually seems like it seems solid, but obviously it's very meta dependent. If we see a good balance of like 5 and 4, like 4 and lower forwards and 5 and higher forwards in play, this card's going to be very good. We can see potentially see this card just setting up 2-for-1s really, really well. So for 5 costs, getting rid of something that's 5 or higher and like pretty much like nerfing down a 4 or lower to like virtually nothing is actually really, really good. Like a whole bunch of like other colors such as Fire and Lightning play stuff like Raiden, play stuff like Odin, Raiden and Bahamut to like get rid of 2 guys. Diabolos for 4 costs less can potentially do the same thing. So yeah, so this card seems very strong, but also very meta dependent. If there's a good balance of triggering off the 5 or more effect, then this card will see like a lot more play. Otherwise, it's not a dead card in a lot of situations that you can always just use to activate your forwards, despite it being quite expensive to do so. Next we have Luso. It is a 4-cost forward at 7,000 power. It's a little bit below the curve, but when Luso enters the field, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. Add 1 category FFTA2 card to your hand. Return the rest to the bottom of your deck in any order. So it does get you a card back straight away when you play it, as long as you like have an FFTA2 card from the top 5 cards of your deck. So it's effectively like below curve. So it's a 2-cost 7k in that regard if you do hit it, right? Next, it's got an ability. So for Wind, Luso gains first strike until the end of turn. This is a very good ability for Wind to have because Wind has a lot of good ping effects, and yeah, combined with any sort of first strike ability is really, really good. Wind like has an issue is that not too many of its forwards, or at least like its stronger forwards, have first strike. Even though first strike would be one of those abilities that synergizes really, really well in Wind, and so Luso just kind of fits into this really, really well. Obviously, it will depend upon seeing what sort of other cards we have in Wind that can really support it. But on paper right now, it seems really, really quite good. So yeah, I like this card, and obviously it just depends on like what other FFTA2 cards we'll see in the new set. Next, we have Momodi. It's a free cost backup. It's got pay 0, choose one forward you control. It gains Brave until the end of the turn. You can only use this ability during your main phase and can only use it once per turn. So, it's a free cost backup, so it's a little bit more expensive, and you can't like just put it into play on your first turn, like not efficiently, anyways. But the fact that it's got pay 0 to use this ability and it's not a dull ability is actually really quite good. So effectively, it just says that during your turn, you can just give one of you guys Brave. And that is a really strong ability to have. Brave is just one of those really strong keywords where you can just attack with a forward and still available for defense. You never have to like make this trade-off of whether attacking is good or not. So yeah, it seems really strong, and the fact that you can use the ability straight away is really good. So I could potentially see a situation where like, yeah, you might have free backups and you have a couple of guys on the field, and yeah, you don't want to commit any more forwards on the field. You can just pay free CP, put Momodi down, and use the ability, just give one of you guys Brave, and you get an ability straight away, and it's got a renewable ability. So this is a very strong card. I like it very much, and for like the issue is that it's like less relevant in Earth decks because like Earth has so many cards with Brave in it. But if you're playing a multicolored deck, like a dual color deck, then I potentially could see this card being very good. Potentially if we see it in something like Fire Earth, like there's already Fire Earth synergy with Final Fantasy VII. This card would be a great card to slot into it. Yeah, give some of your aggressive fire forwards Brave is really good. So yeah, so this card is like really strong. I like it, and it's going to see a lot of play. It's also got like combo potential with something like, say, Light Onion Knight. So you can give your Light Onion Knight attack with it, and then use this ability to put Onion Knight back to hand, put it back onto the field, and then attack with it again. So this card has a lot of potential. There's a lot of great synergies with it. Yeah, I'm really excited to try this card out. And yeah, it's going to be a good card. So definitely, this is probably going to be. It feels like this card is probably going to be like the no-no of Opus 5, in that it's a very strong card. Obviously, like doesn't auto-include in every deck that runs this color, but in a lot of decks, it's going to find a very good synergy very easily. Next, we have one of the legendaries of the set, Poram. It's a 4-cost forward at 5,000 power. EX burst. When Poram enters the field, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Add one card among them to your hand and return the other cards to the bottom of your deck in any order. So straight away, this becomes a 2-cost 5,000 power forward and allows you to select a card from the top 3 cards of your deck. So that's pretty good. It's like it's a scry effect. So yeah, so like being able to selectively choose a card from the top three of your deck is actually really good. It gives you like a pretty good set of options to decide what you want to follow up on. So it's actually pretty solid in that regard. And its ability is choose one action ability, cancel its effects. So action ability are any sort of abilities that you have to like sort of activate them. So any sort of payment abilities. So any dull abilities or any sort of like pay X abilities that aren't special abilities, I don't believe. I don't believe special abilities are action abilities. So it cancels a lot of effects as soon as it can dull. So this is a very strong effect. So this is very similar to something very similar to the Emperor, but it doesn't prevent your opponent from using it. It just gives you the option to always cancel their ability. And there are a lot of really good abilities that you can just straight up cancel. And yeah, and sometimes like being able to cancel ability is sometimes more threatening than your opponent not being able to use them, because your opponent may think that you're going to cancel it, but you don't actually have to. So there might be a situation where your opponent's trying to bait it out, and you just choose not to use it. So yeah, this so like obviously it's a very good psychological card, and sometimes if your opponent forgets, you can just like use this to like stop your opponent's plans very easily. I just foresee situations where people will just try to use Devout, and you just say nope, I use Poram, cancel your Devout, you've lost a backup, and you don't get its ability. So it seems like stupidly good. Not to mention, Water has a lot of ways to reactivate its forwards. It's maybe not have so many ways to say Wind, but yeah. It does have plenty of ways to reactivate its forwards, so you can do this effect multiple times. If you're playing a water wind decks, such as Sky Pirates or such as with Riku Yuna Pain, you're going to have a lot more cheaper reactivation effects, and this is where this card becomes super deadly, in that if you have a whole bunch of wind cards that just constantly reactivate this form, you can just straight up cancel out a lot of your opponent's effects. So this card seems stupidly good. It's an EX burst as well. So yeah, I am really excited to try this card out. And this card, even though its stat line is kind of small, I do see this being like one of the like top 5 legendaries of Opus 5. So if you do pick them up early in your pre-release or in your box openings, do keep them. Wait for the prices to rise because this card is going to be very, very strong. Next, we have Warrior of Light. So this is the Mobius version. It is a 4-cost forward at 7,000 power. When Warrior of Light enters the field, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, add 1 job Warrior of Light to your hand, and return the other cards to the bottom of your deck in any order. So effectively, it's a 2-cost 7,000 power forward, right? So it's very similar to like a lot of light cards actually, that just all pretty much net you a resource when it comes into play. But also, when Warrior Light leaves the field and is put into break zone, choose 1 job Warrior Light of cost 3 or less in your break zone and play it onto the field. And yeah, this card just adds so much value compared to Zidane or compared to Terra, who have an ability have a similar ability to net you a resource. Warrior Light also nets you a forward onto the field when it leaves the field, and we've already had a look at the Water Warrior Light Refia, and she was really strong. She gives all your Warrior Lights plus 1,000 power, and as well as water forward. So yeah, so it seems like there's a really strong synergy there between all the Warrior of Light cards in this new set. So yeah, this card, the way I see it, it seems like a smaller version of Light Ace. So Light Ace, when it comes into play, you get to put another cadet down, and then when it leaves the field, you can put another one into hand. Now Warrior Light seems to be like a more board present version of that. So you got the same power. It costs 4, but you get a card to your hand, but when it leaves play, you get another dude onto field. So yeah, this seems really really strong. Actually seems really good. And the fact that it's heroic means it's going to be really easy to pick up. I do foresee Warrior Light strategies being like a core part of the meta next set. So this card seems really fun to play, and I'm really looking forward to like playing like a whole bunch of like Warrior Light strategies and seeing what we can do with it. Next, we have the dark card Kam'Lanaut. So Kam'Lanaut is a 5-cost forward at 9,000 power, so it's on curve. But when Kam'Lanaut enters the field, you may search for 1 dark element card from your deck and add it to your hand. So this does lend itself to some interesting other like synergies in that you can search for Zodiac and have it like very easily available. But you are like rewarded for searching for other dark forwards as well, and we'll explain that in a moment. So Kam'Lanaut cannot be targeted by summons or abilities of his own element, which you might be thinking, oh yeah, cool. So like only dark forwards and dark summons, like that doesn't really matter, right? But at the start of your main phase 1, choose 1 element. Kam'Lanaut becomes that element. This effect does not end at the end of your turn. So basically, he can permanently stay that color until your next main phase, where you can like choose to switch it up again. So, and like assuming that this translation is correct and it says becomes, not gains, it means that it's no longer a dark card on the field after this effect is resolved, which actually means you're freed up to play other dark cards. So you can actually have Kam'Lanaut on the field, wait for a turn, change them to say like water or fire or whatever the case may be, and then you can put down like an Emperor. Because the Kam'Lanaut is no longer a dark card. So Kam'Lanaut can search for other dark element cards, so you can have multiple dark element forwards on the field. And yeah, this card synergizes really well. Also, the fact that this card can search for something like Chaos. So if you're playing a multi-color deck, then Kam'Lanaut is actually a pretty solid way to color fix, because Kam'Lanaut being a dark color card, you can play this down early without having any sort of specific color fixing, and then use it to search for a Chaos. Just like 1 copy of Chaos is fine, because that's all you really need in multi-color decks. Grab that Chaos, put it down, and then you'll color fix really well. So Kam'Lanaut actually seems very strong, as particular multicolor decks. So yeah. So it seems like the light and color, like the light and dark color cards in this next set seem really exciting. The fact that, and like, let's not forget that the fact that he can't be targeted by summons or abilities of his own element means that he's got very strong like counterplay ability. So if you are up against like wind or lightning or fire or water or whatever, you can choose to make him like a certain element color, and then he's like going to be protected by abilities of those elements. So this is a really strong aggressive forward card, and he does get you a card back straight away. So so effectively he kind of is pseudo a free cost forward at 9,000 power. So that's really good. That's really good on paper, even though you're getting a dark element card, which technically isn't CP. But the fact that you can play those other cards is actually like really strong. So Kam'Lanaut just seems like really good. And I'm really interested to see like what sort of decks can support multiple dark cards. But even by itself in like multicolor decks, I think that this might be like just one of those super go-to cards for color fixing, because you can search for like a Chaos and get that down early. So I'm really excited to try this card out. And that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Definitely like feel free to like post any questions that you might have. What are your thoughts about the new cards? What are some interesting combos or interesting combinations or setups or decks that you want to try with these new cards? Let me know in the comment section below. Really interested to share ideas and to hear what you guys think. If you do enjoy this video, please thumbs up and subscribe. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. I know, like I previously used to sort of advertise that I do stream on Twitch, but recently things have been a little bit busy for me recently, so I haven't been able to stream as much as I would like. So yeah, so in the near future, when I do sort of figure out what my schedule is a little bit better, because there is a bit of a change in my schedule recently. Once I know what I'll be able to do, I'll be back on the streaming and I'll let you guys know. But otherwise, thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll catch you guys later. Grand J out.